shall we begin?
All right.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Hail to the king, baby.
What's in the box?
Precious.
I'm vengeance.
This is going to be quite a ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian Renteria, and this is the Movie Pit Podcast, where we talk about all the big breaking movie news items of the week. We'll talk about the movie trailers that came out this week, and we will talk about the movies that are out in theaters and streaming for all your viewing pleasures. Hello, everybody. I've been gone for a little bit. I apologize for that. Just, stuff gets in the way, and I can't ignore it, especially family stuff. And then last week I had this sore throat thing coming up. I actually had to cancel a recording with the 3 Films in a Pod guys, which I always really love doing. I was really disappointed by that, but this week I'm back. I was supposed to do another podcast this week, but of course life got in the way again and I just couldn't do it. But that podcast will still be coming. It's a kind of a year so far podcast where I talk about the movies I've seen so far, just kind of as a kind of a makeup for missing out and not doing as many review podcasts that I wanted to do. I was supposed to do an Ant-Man and Quantumania review, and I never did it because of time and things getting in the way. But I will be doing that podcast hopefully next week for sure. I did start recording it, and I just had to stop because of some stuff that was going on. But that podcast is coming. And I'll see. I'll update it after this week because I'll be watching some stuff this week, this weekend for that pod. So yeah, that's kind of the little life update that's been going on with me. Let's move on to the podcast. It's going to be probably a pretty short podcast. There's not a lot of stuff that came out so far this week, especially at least at the time of this recording, as always. So we're just going to get right into it. We're going to talk about some of the trailers that came out. 2 real spotlight trailers that came out this week. Fairly short, what I think about them. Of course, you can find these trailers linked down below in the description/show notes area. The first one was for the first trailer for the new CGI animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which is called obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. That dropped early this week, and it looks okay. The movie will be telling a new story of the brothers coming out from the sewers for the first time and becoming the heroes that we all know and love today. Seth Rogen produced the movie and will also voice Bebop to John Cena's Rocksteady. So there's that. Jeff Rowe, who wrote and co-directed Netflix's The Mitchells vs. the Machines, which is probably one of the better animated movies within the last few years, in my opinion, will co-direct a movie. So that pretty much, makes it known that this movie will be in very good hands on that end. The animation style really reminiscent of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so there is also that to take into account. Voicing our heroes are actually real teenagers, or at least close to it, but they're not people that I would. They're not people that I think anyone would know by name right off the bat. They are actually, teenagers or close to it, so it really lends to the credibility of when you start hearing them talk and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And the rest of the cast is also stacked. It's stacked with big names. I mentioned, Rogen. I mentioned Cena, Giancarlo Esposito, Rose Byrne, Maya Rudolph, Ice Cube, Hannibal Buress, Post Malone, Ayo. I mispronounced her name, but she was from The Bear, and she's been popping up in a lot of movies. She's been getting a lot of work. She's been getting cast a lot recently. Ayo Edeburi, I think that's how I don't know if that's how you pronounce her last name. Paul Rudd's also in there. Jackie Chan is also going to be a part of the voice cast. He will be voicing Master Splinter, which is very, very nice. But the movie looks pretty good. Like I mentioned, it looks like they're actually teenagers. The trailer, kind of starts off with them on a rooftop recording themselves, messing around with their swords and stuff. We don't really get a good idea of the movie, but it's called Mutant Mayhem, so there's probably going to be a lot of mutant characters, and a lot of the characters a lot of the actors that are voicing characters are all like really weird names. I'm not too into the lore of Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I don't know if these are characters that existed in the comics or in the old TV shows or anything like that. But obviously Seth Rogen is a big fan, and he's been chomping at the bit to do this movie for a little bit, and he's been working really hard with his team in his production company and everything like that. So I would assume that it is in very good hands with that. He's been very open about how his feelings for the movie and everything like that. So movie looks pretty good. It's a really short teaser, pretty much. Not really too much to go on, but so far, especially with the animation style, looks pretty good. So I will say that about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which will open later this year on August 4th. The next trailer, the last spotlight trailer that we have so far, is the first trailer for Apple TV's upcoming romantic action comedy called Ghosted. This stars Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, and this looks like a lot of fun. Like, really a lot of fun. The movie follows Evans, a regular guy who falls hard for de Armas' character, which I mean, any man would probably fall really hard for anyway, who suddenly gets ghosted. And determined to figure out why, he thinks in a romantic gesture, he goes to London, which I guess is where she said she was going to meet up, only to find out that she is a spy, because he gets kidnapped and she rescues him. So, and then obviously romantic action hijinks ensue from there. There's a lot of like car chases and shootouts around them. It looks like from the trailer that maybe they're trying to assume that maybe Chris Evans is some sort of agent or something. He does kind of get into the action a little bit, but he does look like he's fumbling around and he's probably just getting really lucky. So that'll be interesting to kind of see if that is actually true or not, or maybe he just really is a regular guy, which would be really, funny because, obviously we're used to seeing Evans playing, the hero or the guy, the action guy that knows everything. So for him to potentially come into the movie as kind of the goof, as you will, or the boyfriend, as he says in the trailer, and Ana de Armas plays the agent, the spy, doing all the cool stuff, would be pretty cool as well. Dexter Fletcher, who directed Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman, is directing the movie off the script by Bretton Reese and Paul Rennick, who of course were responsible for Zombieland and Deadpool. Co-starring in the movie are Adrian Brody, who looks like he's playing the villain. Mike Moe, who played Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is also in there. Looks like he's playing, I don't know who he's playing in the movie, but it looks like he has a few fight scenes in the movie, so he might be playing an antagonistic force of some sort. Tim Blake Nelson, Mawarn Kanzari, aka Hot Jafar from Aladdin. I know that's how everybody knows him now, so that's how I'm gonna pronounce him. He's also in there. I can't remember if I saw him in the trailer or not. Amy Sedaris and Tate Donovan also co-starred in the movie. Ghosted will stream on Apple TV Plus on April 21st. Apple TV, they usually like to play their movies in a limited release a week before, or maybe sometimes a couple weeks before in theaters. So there is a chance that maybe this will be in theaters. But right now they are only listing it as an Apple TV Plus movie or release date anyway. And that's on April 21st. So obviously I'll keep you guys updated on that if that is the case. But mark your calendars. This looks pretty fun. It looks pretty cool. This one, I remember when this project was first announced, I think originally it was supposed to be Chris Evans. No, it was supposed to be Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson originally. That was kind of like they're reuniting, but then Scarlett Johansson had to drop out I think it was probably scheduling conflicts or something, and then that's when they brought in Ana de Armas, which works out because obviously we've seen Chris Evans and Ana de Armas together, Knives Out, and then recently in the Gray Man. So this looks pretty fun. It looks pretty good. I remember when it was first announced, they were saying like this is like a high concept. That was the wording they used. They used high concept action romantic comedy, and they likened it to Romancing the Stone. I think another movie, I can't remember what it was, but it'll be interesting. But this looks pretty good. It looks really, really fun. So there you go. Those are the two trailers that I want to spotlight this week. There's some more trailers down below in the description/show notes area if you want to go check those out. So let's move on. It's a really short week, like I mentioned, but let's move on to the movie news items of the week. Legendary and famed director Nancy Meyers is back in the director's chair and will do so for Netflix. I think this is an update from a story that came out probably a little bit ago, probably even earlier this year. I remember like Nancy Meyers being in one of those stories, but this is officially now gonna happen. Not only that, it has some big names circling, being eyed or eyeing for lead roles in this movie. So those names include Scarlett Johansson, which I think is the main one for the lead, Penelope Cruz, Owen Wilson, and Michael Fassbender. Meyers will produce, write, and direct the comedy, which does currently have a title of Paris Paramount, and will be Meyers' first directing job since 2015's The Intern, which, yes, is the movie with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. The story will center on a talented young writer-director who falls in love with the producer, and with the pair making several successful films before calling it quits, romantically and professionally. The two are forced back together, however, when a new project arises, and they find themselves teamed up again and having to deal with high stakes and volatile stars. This, apparently, I didn't know about this because I don't really, know too much about the lives of, the personal lives of, especially the romantic lives of many directors and writers, but this is somewhat parallel to Meyers' own life, who had a long romantic and professional relationship with Charles Shire, a fellow writer, producer, director. The two made movies together like Private Benjamin, Baby Boom, The Parent Trap, and Father of the Bride. After the pair split up, Meyers then went on to write and direct movies like Something's Gotta Give and The Holiday, just two of the movies that she did. She's obviously done many, many more. Also, apparently the movie has been in the works since last April, which the movie itself has been in the works since last April, but I think Meyers' involvement happened, or at least her involvement leading to potentially directing was earlier this year, again, from what I remember, and had Jennifer Lawrence eyed for the role until she dropped out for unknown reasons. The budget is going to be the big thing here because reports say the movie is looking at $130 to $150 million budget, which is insane, and yes, would make it the most expensive romantic comedy in Hollywood ever. All of this after Meyers said she was taking a break, quote-unquote break, in 2019 after seeing how micro-budgeted comedies like the ones, the romantic comedies like the ones that she is obviously famous for, were basically disappearing from the current climate in Hollywood. But Netflix obviously enticed her enough for her to come back, and now we can look forward to another Nancy Meyers movie, which is pretty cool. No word yet on when the film will get going production-wise, but Meyers is already attached. Netflix, they are pretty quick on getting these movies up and going, and with actors already being lined up or eyed, I can only assume that this movie could probably start filming maybe late this year, maybe next year, so we can probably be looking at a 2025 release, maybe. I mean, it is a romantic comedy. It is expensive. That's going to be the other thing, and it's also about Hollywood, so this is obviously going to have a lot of eyes on it, especially with Meyers back directing. Again, she is romantic comedy royalty for all intents and purposes, so this is a pretty big deal. Let's move on to the next movie news item. Jonathan Majors is a very busy and successful man, with both Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and Creed 3 being big successes at the box office, especially Creed 3. Now it looks like it's going to lead him back to a director he's already worked for before in Spike Lee. Majors is set to star and produce the film The Understudy. Yes, The Understudy. D-A, and then, Understudy. With Lee in early talks to direct and executive produce as well. Also producing is Will Smith through his Westbrook Studios production banner. So that's a pretty big team right there of Will Smith, even if he's just a producer, and just that, Spike Lee, and of course Jonathan Majors. The film will follow a Broadway actor who finds a role he's willing to kill for, which is pretty ironic considering that Jonathan Majors has done a lot of Broadway stuff before he became the big name that we know now here in Hollywood. So it's a nice little return of sorts for him. And of course, Majors worked with Spike Lee on the Netflix film The Five Bloods, which I don't know if I would say that made him a household name, but I think that pretty much, I think The Last Black Man in San Francisco kind of opened the door for him. And I think, for general audiences who probably never got a chance to watch Last Black Man in San Francisco, The Five Bloods is probably, a lot of people's way of getting to Jonathan Majors. I mean, now, obviously, he's a household name, but I think this was the Five Bloods, especially working with Spike Lee, of all people, and then that cast itself is amazing. So I think that, kind of gave him a nice push into the room for a lot of people, into the houses, if you will. And then, obviously now going back with Spike Lee, and obviously Spike Lee, the reputation he has and the history he has, this is pretty big. This is pretty massive. So, Jonathan Majors, no signs of slowing down at all. And, looking forward to it. I really am. So that's pretty cool. No word on when production will start on this one either. I don't know what Majors has on his plate, obviously with the exception of the Avengers movies that are coming up and any other appearances he may be making from here on forward. But, color us excited over here at the Movie Pit Podcast. So there you go. And finally, the last bit of news that we have here, at least at the time of this recording, Jenna Ortega will appear in Scream 6 this weekend, but she is also staying in the Tim Burton business after appearing in the hit TV series Wednesday. And then saying some stuff recently. Nothing too negative. I think a lot of people are leaning it that way, but anyway, but she is coming back for Wednesday season 2, where she'll be a executive producer. She is staying again in the Tim Burton business. She will be apparently jumping to Beetlejuice 2. Ortega is currently circling the role of Lydia's daughter for the sequel. Lydia, of course, being Winona Ryder's character from the first movie. If she joins Ortega, she'll be only the second confirmed name to the cast, as Michael Keaton is, of course, set to come back and play Beetlejuice himself. The movie has been in the works for quite some time now, with multiple writers coming in over the years and trying to crack a story for that movie. Burton himself, even throughout those years, has come in and out of the project as well, trying to figure out if he wants to come back in a story himself. But Burton will indeed return to direct the movie, which reports are eyeing a production shoot for either late May or early June in London. However, the budget has not been decided yet, and the budget talks are still going on, and it's becoming a back and forth situation. So if they don't clear up the budget first, there is a chance that maybe this thing will be pushed back just a little bit in terms, at least, of filming. Jenna Ortega's on a roll right now. Obviously, Wednesday, she's got Scream 6 coming out. Even before then, she had X, she's just the it girl now, and well within that title, because she is really, really good at what she does, especially for her being so young and being in the business for a long time. I think people forget or just don't know or learn every day that she used to be a Disney kid. She was on a Disney Channel series. Yeah, she was doing that, and then I guess she stopped doing the Disney Channel stuff for a little bit, and then she started appearing in a bunch of other stuff. So, but she's ruling the world right now, and I think she totally deserves it, because she's really good at what she does, and she is the future of Hollywood. She is the next big star. Her and her ex co-star Mia Goth's right there too. So, her appearing in Beetlejuice 2, staying with Tim Burton. I mean, she had nothing but nice things to say about Tim Burton. So, I don't, even with the stuff going on with Wednesday, you guys can go check that out. I'm not going to talk about that here, but it sounds like she has nothing but positive things to say about him. So her working with him again doesn't surprise me or anything like that. Do we need a Beetlejuice sequel? I don't know. Can it work? We'll see. We'll see on that. But Ortega, nonetheless, getting work. She deserves it, and nothing but praise for her. Nothing for a good future for her on my side. So there you go, Beetlejuice 2. All right, that is all the movie news I have for you guys, at the least, of course, at the time of this recording. Anything big drops, I will drop it over on the Twitter page, or I'll insert it here if there's enough time to drop it into the podcast. That said, let us move on to the movies that are coming out in theaters and streaming this weekend for all your viewing pleasures.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. All
right, so we're going to start off with streaming like we usually do. We got one real big streaming movie coming out this weekend, and this is one that I've been looking forward toward. It is Luther, The Fallen Son. This is based off the hit TV series Luther that stars Idris Elba. He's coming back for this movie. This movie got a limited release in theaters, I believe, a couple weeks ago. Maybe, I don't know if it was last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, but it did get a limited release in theaters. So maybe some people have already seen it, but it is coming out finally on Netflix. The movie, of course, follows a brilliant but disgraced detective John Luther breaks out of prison to hunt down a sadistic serial killer who is terrorizing London. And that villain is Andy Serkis, which is pretty cool. Cynthia Erivo also stars in the movie. It looks like she's playing the new head detective who is hunting down not only the killer, but is also hunting down Luther as well. I'm a big fan of the Luther TV series. I got on it pretty late. I think there were already kind of 2 seasons in already when that happened, but I caught up on those 2 seasons and then watched the rest of the seasons that were left. It's a really good show. So if you've never seen Luther, I would recommend that you probably watch the TV series before watching the movie, because I don't know how the movie is going to address everything that's happened in the series, because obviously I haven't watched it yet, but I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of probably callbacks or mentions of a lot of stuff, especially considering that Luther, I mean, the synopsis kind of gives it away that Luther is in prison and he breaks out of it. There's a reason for why he's in prison from the last stuff, but I don't want to give too much away, but highly recommend the show. The seasons aren't that long. They're like maybe 4 or 6 episodes tops. I think the last season was like 2 big parts. So it's a really quick show. It's Idris Elba. It's really, really good. He's great in it. And it's really good. So I'm looking forward to Luther the Fallen Son rather, on Netflix. So that's the only streaming movie that I was able to find. We got 3 movies in theaters this weekend. 2 of them are very big. The other one will be interesting to see kind of the audience it brings in. Champions. That is the first movie we're going to talk about. A former minor league basketball coach is ordered by the court to manage a team of players with intellectual disabilities. He soon realizes that despite his doubts, together the team can go further than they ever imagined. Woody Harrelson plays the head coach in this movie. Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia plays one of the moms of one of the kids in the movie. It looks like obviously the love interest of Woody Harrelson. Cheech Martin and Ernie Hudson also appear in the film. This looks pretty good. It looks like a really nice, solid sports comedy. There's going to be a lot of disability jokes because obviously it's Woody Harrelson and he's very good at that deadpan little sting humor in there. We see a little bit in the trailer, but it looks pretty good. It's a sports movie. Out of everything, it's going to be a sports movie, so it looks pretty good. So there's Champions. The next movie is 65. This is, of course, the Adam Driver dinosaur movie. An astronaut crash lands on a mysterious planet only to discover he's not alone because there's dinosaurs there. So it's pretty much Adam Driver show. Ariana Greenblatt, who played young Gamora in the event in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, just Infinity War. She wasn't in Endgame, but she played the younger Gamora in the movie. She's also in the film. Looks like one of the people that he finds along the way, trying to find a way off the planet that's filled with dinosaurs. But this looks pretty good. This looks pretty interesting. This was supposed to come out a couple weeks later. They actually pushed up the release date, which I don't know why they did that, because the other movie that comes out this weekend is, of course, Scream 6. So I don't know why they would push this movie up against Scream 6, which has been getting nothing but a lot of great reviews online as well. I haven't seen anything for 65. I don't know if I'm just missing them or just not seeing them, but it's Adam Driver, it's dinosaurs, it's sci-fi. It looks like a pretty good, action kind of horror, or at least thriller movie. I'm really looking for it. I've been kind of looking. I know this movie was happening. I knew the title was happening, but I just totally forgot about what it was about. And then the trailer started coming out. I was like, yeah, no, I want to watch that. It's Adam Driver, it's dinosaurs, it's sci-fi. Yeah, I want to watch that. But like I mentioned, the other movie coming out, the big one, Scream 6, nothing but good reviews from what I've been seeing online. They're saying it's the best Scream movie since the first one. They're saying it's bloody. They're saying that it pays so much respect to the franchise while also doing its own thing and being its own thing, which very hard to do. And I think any kind of fear probably that people had about the movie, I think has kind of gone away with the reception so far it's gotten. I know that apparently the killer got leaked online. I've been thankful that I haven't, I have very good people on my timeline that have not, said that spoiler or brought that spoiler to my timeline, which is really, thank you for that, honestly. There's a reason why I follow all of you who I do. But yeah, Scream 6, it looks great. I think there was some worries. A lot of people were like, why are they, doing the Scream, basically a year after, or a couple years after the last one. But if it works out, it works out. And apparently from what I've been, I didn't talk about this on the news because I wanted to bring it up here. I guess there's, news floating around that Scream 7 has been greenlit even before Scream 6 has come out. So if that doesn't show you just how much faith they have in the movie and faith in the fans to show up and for this to be a success, I think that should say a lot. And if you don't believe it, then, announcing a sequel to a movie before it's even come out is big, especially even with a known franchise like Scream. Even doing that, even with a known IP, even with a built-in fan base, announcing a sequel to a movie before it's even come out is a pretty big deal. And that shows a lot of faith that the studio has in the team of Radio Silence. More than likely they're coming back, unless something, drastic happens. But yeah, there you go. Scream 6 coming out. Nothing but good reviews. It looks the change of setting, obviously is a big thing. It's now in New York. It's not in Woodsboro anymore. So there's that. So let's see what happens. So Scream 6, 65, and Champions are your movies coming out this week. March is filled with jam-packed stuff. March is like every week we're having some big movies, which is pretty cool. So March is the month. I guess March is the month where studios are like, we're banking on March being the upstart for the box office and things. And Creed 3 pretty much started that off. New movie wise, anyway. All right, and then on streaming, so again, Champion 65 and Scream, your movies in theaters, and then Luther: The Fallen Son on Netflix. That's it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. As always, it's short, simple, to the point podcast this week. There hasn't been crazy. I feel like the last couple of weeks have been very light on like big news. Like there's like a few big. Obviously I missed a couple weeks, but even those weeks when I was putting together the outline, there wasn't a lot of movie news, or even, like big trailers that came out. So like, I don't know if they're just waiting post Oscars, because obviously the Oscars are this weekend as well. I still need to do some work on the Oscar stuff. So that's why there's no, like official Oscar picks or anything like that podcast, which I usually do. Cause I'm missing a lot of stuff. So I got to get to work on that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they're just waiting post Oscars to like drop certain stuff, but which is odd to me because obviously this month is pretty big, box office wise. So I don't know. We'll see. Obviously we'll see an uptick on stuff. It happens, but we'll see an uptick on movie news, I'm sure, within the coming weeks. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. No matter where you're listening to, where you can listen to everywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Anchor, Good Pods. We're pretty much, those are all the places you can pretty much find the podcast. Social media links are also down below. Twitter, Instagram. You can follow the pages for the podcast, and you can follow the pages, my personal pages as well, if you want to, give me a follow over there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Always appreciate it. You guys are good people. If you are in the West Coast, especially in California, in that terrible snowstorm, I feel for you so bad. Just watching that, it's unbearable. But please stay safe, no matter where you are. Honestly, stay safe, be good people, and as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!